Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is your course in charge, Dr. NIGHAT SARWAR. Today I would like to start my first session about course Introduction to Mass Communication. In this session we will discuss some terms related to mass communication, definition of communication and mass communication, and we will also discuss difference between communication, mass communication, and the nature of mass communication. Some important terms related to mass communication. Okay, write down some terms related to mass communication. First term is byline. The author or reporter name at the top of a story. When a news comes with the name of reporter, it's called a byline news. Example of byline news is by Faisal Ilyas, by Kamran Khan. Second term is print line. It is a legal requirement. Newspaper cannot be published without a print line. It indicates the name of the printer, publication, and editor's name. Kindly note the example of print line. Printed at Pakistan Herald Limited by Wasim Ahmed and published for Pakistan Herald Publications Limited by Khwaja Kaleem Ahmed at Harun House, Dr. Ziauddin Ahmed wrote, editor Zafar Abbas. This is the example of the print line. The next term is banner head. Banner head means a large headline covering a newspaper's entire column. If newspaper headline covering entire column, it's known as the banner head. Okay, next term is folio line. Folio line means name of the newspaper with date, month, year, and it also indicates the section. Section means metropolitan, sports, finance, any one of them. Folio line can be at any page of the newspaper. Next term is credit line. Credit line indicates the source of the news. In other words, indication of source of the news material. For example, our correspondent and by our staff reporter. This is totally depend upon editor, either he publish news with a byline or a credit line. Next term is date line. The city from which a newspaper dispatch is known as the date line. Next term is deadline. The last moment at which copy can be accepted for an issue is the indication of deadline. Next word is embargo. Embargo means fixed time given for an advance story before which the items cannot be printed. Next term is flag. The newspaper name on the editor's page is known as the flag. Next term is masthead. The newspaper's name on the front page is known as the masthead. For example, Dawn, Jung. Next term is intro. First paragraph of a news story in which a story is introduced briefly is known as intro. Another word for intro is introduction. Okay, next term, inverted pyramid. News style in which most important and interesting facts are given in a start and remaining according to their importance is known as inverted pyramid style of news writing. Next term, lead. The beginning of a news story contains such information as who, what, where, why, and how. Another word is logo. A symbol, usually simple in design, which becomes the visual identity of a company or product, is known as logo. Next term, makeup. Placing articles in position for printing in a page is makeup. Another term is nose for news. Nose for news means ability to find news. Another term is scoop. Scoop means an exclusive interview. Another term is spot news. Immediate, recent, or live news are known as spot news. Next term, PBC. PBC stands for Pakistan Broadcasting Corporation. Next term, PFUJ. PFUJ stands for Pakistan Federal Union of Journalists. Another word, CPNE, Council of Pakistan Newspaper Editors, is CPNE. APNS, All Pakistan Newspapers Association, All Pakistan Newspaper Society is known as APNS. These are the terms related to mass communication, or these are the glossary. We are also call this glossary. Now come to our next session, which is about what is communication and mass communication. Okay, what is communication? Communication is an art of transmitting ideas, attitudes, and information from one person to another. The term communication has been derived from the Latin word communis, which means common. Another definition of communication: the process or act of communicating, the exchanging or imparting of ideas and information is known as communication. Now, definition of mass communication: the process by which a complex organization with the aid of one or more machines produces and transmits public messages that are directed at large, heterogeneous and scattered audiences. Okay, underline the keywords related to this definition of mass communication. Its keyword: complex, heterogeneous and scattered. Write the meaning of complex. Complex means composed of many interrelated parts, involved something made for interrelating parts. Complex means composed of many interrelated parts, involved something made of interrelating parts. Another keyword of mass communication definition is heterogeneous. Heterogeneous means composed of parts, people, things that are not related to each other or are of different kinds. Another keyword is scattered. Scattered means to disperse or to spread out over a wide area. This is the definition of communication and mass communication. Now, difference between communication and mass communication. The key difference between communication and mass communication is that communication refers to transmitting a message to one or more persons, whereas mass where message is transmitting a message to a large audience through mass media. In other words, communication refers to the overall exchanging of a message, while mass communication refers to exchanging of a message through media. Communication is the basis of society. However, mass communication developed with the time and the advancement of technology. Now come to nature of mass communication. The salient characteristics of traditional mass communication. Here are the 5 traditional defining features of mass communication. Mass communication is produced by complex and formal organization. Mass communication organizations have multiple gatekeepers. Mass communication organizations need a great deal of money to operate. Mass communication organizations exist to make a profit. Mass communication organizations are highly competitive. Now all these points are in detail. Okay, come to first point. Mass communication is produced by complex and formal organization. Publishing a newspaper or operating a TV station requires control of money, management of personnel, coordination of activities, and application of authority. Accomplishing all these tasks requires a well-defined organizational structure characterized by specialization, division of labor, and focused areas of responsibility. Consequently, traditional mass communication is the product of a bureaucracy. As in most bureaucracies, decision making takes place at several levels of management, and channels of communication within the organization are formalized. Thus, many of the decisions about what gets included in a newspaper or in a TV program, for instance, are made by committees or groups. Further, decisions are made by several individuals in ascending levels of the bureaucracy, and communication follows predetermined and predictable patterns within the organization. This results in end products that seldom resemble the original idea of the creators. Second point, mass communication organizations have multiple gatekeepers. Another important factor that characterizes the traditional mass communication is the presence of multiple gatekeepers. A gatekeeper is any person or group who has control over what material eventually reach the public. Some gatekeepers are more obvious than others, such as the editor of a newspaper or the news director at a television station. Others are less visible. In the newsroom, an assignment editor decides whether to send a reporter to cover a certain event. The reporter then decides if anything about the event is worth reporting. An editor may subsequently shorten the story if submitted or delete it altogether. Obviously, gatekeepers abound in mass communication. The more complex the organization, the more gatekeepers that will be found. Another point, mass communication organization need a great deal of money to operate. It costs a lot of money to start a mass communication organization and to keep it running. Once the organization is in operation, expenses are also sizable. Next point, come to the next point. Next point is mass communication organization exists to make a profit. Mass communication organizations exist to make a profit. Although there are some exceptions, most newspapers, magazines, record companies and TV and radio stations strive to produce a profit for their owners and stockholders. And while radio and TV stations are licensed to serve the public interest, the newspaper commonly assume a watchdog role on behalf of their readers. If they do not make money, they go out of business. The consumer is the ultimate source of the profit. When you buy a CD or a movie ticket, part of the price includes the profit. Newspaper, TV, magazine and radio earn most of their profits by selling their audiences to advertisers. The cost of advertising in turn is passed on by the manufacturers to the consumers. Next point. Since the audience is the source of profit, mass communication organizations compete with one another to attract an audience. This should come as no surprise to anyone who has ever watched the television or passed a magazine stand. The major television networks compete with one another for rating, spending millions of rupees each other to promote the new fall season. Radio stations compete with other stations that have similar formats. Recording companies spend large sums promotions their records, hoping to outsell their competitors. Daily newspapers compete with weeklies and with radio and television. Motion pictures companies gamble millions on films to compete successfully. This competition has several consequences. Now, this is all for the today's session. We will meet soon, inshallah, with our next session. Until then, Allah Hafiz.